today we're going to talk about the gayest man in the anti-woke sphere, Andy Pants Gaming, and his money hungriness, his clout chasing, as well as fabrication of beliefs, as well as stupidity. This is Andy Pants Gaming, the worst, gayest anti-woke YouTuber.
So a few weeks ago, I had the Act Man on my stream to have a casual chat about wokeness in video games. He denied that women in games are becoming uglier, he denied that games are becoming less masculine, and he denied that games are becoming more woke. A few days later, he made a video making fun of the idea that there was wokeness in games, and got absolutely bodied by his followers.
You mean the guy with 54k likes from the video? Plus, people still remember that you copyrighted Actman's video of that debate you had with him, and you're trying to suppress it and hide it. Don't try to escape this, you little fucking weasel.
Talk about in this video is this simple question: are games becoming more woke? If you have your eyes open and have played more than one game in your life, it's pretty obvious they are. But just in case anybody disagrees with this simple fact, I'm making a video to show you the most egregious examples of the woke cancer infecting video games. So first off, we need to define woke, because they always say that we can't. Merriam-Webster defines it very clearly. Woke, politically liberal or progressive as in matters of racial and social justice, especially in a way that is considered unreasonable or extreme.
Andy forgot to mention that there's another definition for the word woke: aware and actively attentive to important societal facts and issues, especially issues of racial and social justice. So there's literally two definitions, which makes the word woke confusing, because there's the liberal side of it, saying I'm aware of all this information, and then his side of it, where it's people being too extreme. That is still confusing.
Wokeness contains false ideologies within it: Marxism, critical race theory, intersectionality, and many others.
Andy, I know you're using the word Marxist as a blanket term for communism, and I have to remind you that, Eastern Europe, especially Russia, Soviet Union, communist. So if Russia makes a game about communism, are you going to call it woke cancer? Because you have to be consistent. Same thing with China, communist country. You have to call it woke cancer if they make a game about communism. And that money goes to the Chinese government. And plus, you made a video talking about, literally, part of it, where the Chinese government's killing Christians. So that means, by that logic, you're giving the Chinese government more money to kill Christians. Plus, if any other Eastern European company makes a game about communism, you also gotta call that woke cancer. Be consistent, Andy.
But what is wokeness really about? At the bottom of their hearts, woke people hate anything that is good, beautiful, and true. Woke people hate beautiful women. They hate masculine men. They hate healthy sexuality. They hate normal people.
You know that there's normal liberals that are Christians, probably have family values, normal relationships, stuff like that. Plus, you know that there have been conservatives on your side, Andy, that are attracted to trans people. There's Nick Fuentes, who had alleged gay sex with leftist streamer Destiny. So, which very degenerate behavior in your eyes, and your side of the political spectrum. And then you also have the leftists. Yeah, there's extreme leftists, but there are normal ones as well, Andy.
You see this last week with the trans creative director at BioWare designing a character creator where this is the biggest butt you can have and this is the biggest chest you can have on a woman. It's obvious that people who made this hate attractiveness in females, never advocate for porn.
It seems weird that a man would talk about a breast and ass slider in a game when you're supposed to avoid sexual content by your religion. And if you really cared about health, then you would like women with smaller breasts, since large breasts are lumps of fat.
Females and in males. Another thing woke people hate is diversity. Say what? Come again, Andrew? Isn't the whole woke movement built upon creating more diversity, equity, and inclusion? Well, that's the genius of it. Woke people say they love representation and equality, while only pushing for acceptance by a small group of people. When they talk about equality, I like to ask them this question: are white men included in the woke movement's definition of diversity? No. Are religious people included in the woke movement's definition of diversity? No. Are big-breasted, beautiful women included in the woke movement's definition of diversity? No.
You're not better either, Andy. I have proof of you claiming that the Jews killing Jesus, a conspiracy theory that is harmful and breaks YouTube's TOS on misinformation. It's even more ironic because at the time, Jesus was a Jew, and that's just really retarded.
It all goes back to Satan. It's all satanic in nature. It's all demonic in nature. The people behind Activision, these DEI initiatives, it's intended to create confusion. It's started by Satan. It is proliferated by the people who killed Jesus. Basically, even if you try to not be racist, according to them, you're being racist. Even if you try to not be sexist, you're being sexist. This is why these people are so useless and evil, is because everything you do, according to them, is racist. Always, because you're a white man. But let's be honest, guys, at the end of the day, this is about power, right? They think by calling you racist or homophobic, they have some kind of power over you. But the joke's on them. Racist and homophobe are words we laugh at now, because the people using these words are leftist cowards. You saw the Act Man try to make this statement in one of his recent videos. Oh, I guess everything is woke now, huh? So everything is just woke. This is what's known as a straw man fallacy, and it isn't actually an argument. If you lived in a town that was flooding and somebody said, "Why are you using the word flood so much? I'm so tired of hearing that word." Well, we use the word flood because it describes what is happening right now. More importantly, why are you defending gay-ass propaganda in video games?
This tells me that Andy didn't watch the video because the video was about Actman making fun of the woke game list for things like incompetent male characters or LGBT flags in the background or as a cosmetic. And he's just reading only by the thumbnail saying everything is woke. Plus, Andy makes a straw man argument because he just looked at the thumbnail and made it a weaker points about pointing what a straw man argument is. This also tells me that Andy's a bigger retard, and what he probably actually does is that he kidnaps men, takes them to the closet, and rapes them in Narnia.
Saints Row. The original Saints Row was very similar to GTA, but instead of being by yourself, you were part of a gang that helps you rise to power. With iconic characters like Johnny Gat, Shaundi, Julius, and others, Saints Row 2 is incredibly edgy and hilarious. You buy prostitutes, kill bums, etc. Well, the Saints Row reboot in 2022 seemed to think it was a good idea to replace every single character from this celebrated series with a bunch of gay dudes with their shirts off, ugly lesbians, girl bosses, and trans people. Like, huh? Nobody has ever understood their audience worse than whoever took control of the Saints Row reboot.
Andy uses Saints Row Reboot's story and characters as the sole factors of the game's failure, but doesn't mention its empty open world and stale gameplay as also factors for its downfall and a company's death.
And again, talk about just not understanding your audience at all. Do they really think edgelord Halo dudes want to be like, "Oh dude, sick International Women's Day skin, bro"? Also, if you look through the armor skins available to you in Halo Infinite, it's full of this kind of garbage like International Women's Day, Trans Visibility Day colors, Black Lives Matter. Like, where is my Master Chief draped in the American flag? Where is my Master Chief with a Trump helmet? Like, for some reason they left that out. Why do y'all think that is?
Halo did the LGBT skins and the Women's Day because they're trying to get money. And obviously they cannot do a conservative MAGA skin because it's way too controversial for them. Andy, stop being retarded and go back to raping men in the closets in Narnia.
Battlefield. So Sweden is overwhelmingly filled with homosexual men. I've established this before. But a broken clock is still right twice a day. In the early 2000s, DICE Entertainment made a few incredible Battlefield games, but in 2018, they done goofed. They took what had been, up until this point, a pretty realistic and accurate war game, and they added women, black girl bosses, and lesbians for no reason. Not a single woman fought on the front lines in World War II in the Western Front. But that wasn't going to stop the gay men of Sweden. So they put girl bosses in Battlefield 5 just to piss you off. I saw an article last week that DICE is completely changing directions and basically begging for us to come back. It's pretty awesome, actually. They keep talking about how Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 and how they learned their lesson and are going to change now. But it's too bad because I'm done with the Battlefield games and will never play.
I will agree on you that historical accuracy is important in games, so Battlefield 5 will take the L, but you could just ignore it and play the older ones like Battlefield 1 or anything else.
Wolfenstein. I'll get right to the point with this one. Wolf 2014 is a very masculine, very based, very pro-America, and it's an awesome game. Wolfenstein 2017 is a woke abortion full of communist propaganda, Marxist messages, feminism, and inclusion.
There he goes again with the communist statement. But I also should like to mention that DJ is the people you don't like to mention that killed Jesus, according to you. So is the game woke again? Because DJ was always a Jew. Even the game looks into his Judaism. Yes, there's some black characters, and the whole racism thing might be preachy. You can just ignore the game and focus on the rest of the stuff, Andy.
I also found Wolf 2 to just not be nearly as good of a game, gameplay-wise, as the 2014 reboot. The 2014 reboot and the Old Blood DLC are both really solid games without basically any political propaganda.
You complain about the new Wolfenstein duology games because everyone hates them. It's pretty obvious.
Suicide Squad. If we consider this game to be a continuation of the Arkham games, then they absolutely butchered one of the greatest masculine characters of all time, Batman. In 2009, 2011, and 2015, Rocksteady had built up a reputation for making incredible Batman games. Really great story, unique gameplay mechanics, and I would say Arkham City still holds up as one of the greatest video games of all time. So what did they do? Well, they butchered the gameplay, of course, and turned it into the most generic, sad, third-person slop shooter you've ever played. They replaced all the characters with lesbians, girl bosses, and minorities, and of course there's all kinds of queer inclusion flags and equality flags everywhere in this game. And of course, white men have to be killed because we hate white men because white men are the worst. Companies like Rocksteady have destroyed our favorite franchise, and they all deserve to go out of business. Think about it. We could have gotten a fourth Arkham game from these guys, and instead we got this communist slop.
For Suicide Squad, it's the same thing again. Everyone hates it, you can complain about it, and it was a live service game which killed the gameplay of it. Plus, it was online only where you could just have an offline mode.
Dragon Age. If you've played the first three Dragon Age games, you know they're full of heterosexual romance, attractive outfits for sexy women, and tons of edgy, funny, and great storylines. Well, anytime the blue hairs see the boys enjoying themselves, you know troons and lesbians are going to show up and ruin this. Dragon Age Veilguard is shaping up to be the biggest woke abortion of the year. As I said earlier, this is the biggest breast and butt you can have on a woman in the game. While this is a small thing, you know this level of insanity is going to propagate itself through the whole game. So we're looking at just a small detail, but small details add up and show you the general direction of a video game.
Your Dragon Age point makes you look like a porn addict, Andy. This makes you a hypocrite on your Christian beliefs. Are you probably lusting when, in your Marvel Rival video, you said I'm not an advocate for porn? Do better, Andy.
That's it. Zelda. This one is very short. The Zelda games have always had a male protagonist, but of course, woke Nintendo had to ruin that. The new Zelda game stars Princess Zelda because she don't need no man. She can
This is
do
why
everything
people don't take you seriously and why people make fun of you, Andy.
herself. Fallout New Vegas, as I've said many times, is one of the edgiest and best games of all time. I mean, you can roleplay as the bad guys if you want. In Fallout 3, you can literally enslave kids. But of course, as all woke games do, because people's feet got hurt, they have to remove this stuff. What is there to say about Fallout 76 that hasn't been said already? It is a woke, bland cash grab with loads and loads of dull, inoffensive characters with absolutely no perspective on anything. Oh, and it's full of gay depravity in every nook and cranny, with tons of gay flags everywhere.
This is the same argument again. Obviously, everyone disliked Fallout 76, which is a point you would bring up as why it's woke.
Spider-Man 2. Despite MJ being smoking hot in every piece of Spider-Man media for 30 years, it turns out the broken gay Satanists who work at Sucker Punch know better than us chuds. In Spider-Man 2018, Mary Jane was unattractive, and then they made her even uglier in Spider-Man 2. What makes this worse is if you look directly at her huge, ugly chin, you can see that that she was meant to look like the lead girl boss writer from the games. All of these evil people just want to like self-insert themselves in games, it seems. Instead of, maybe making something that their audience wants. Watch Synthetic Man's video on Spidey 2 if you want a full write-up on all the gay nonsense. But Spider-Man 2 is one of the gayest and grossest games of all time. It's full of true nonsense. It's really just a completely unenjoyable mess.
So Andy wants all female characters to look like sex dolls and no LGBT flags. I will agree on maybe like if the BLM flags, because that was probably not necessary, but this doesn't really do much of anything. You can easily ignore it, and you can probably download the mod if you want to get rid of it.
Alright, next up, we're going to talk about 3 games that got woke remakes. If you ever wanted to catch these people with their hands in the cookie jar, the best place to do it is to show you how they love to change old games. Modernize these games. Let's make them more inclusive so people's feelings don't get hurt. The first example is Mass Effect. While I'm sure there's tons of examples of this game being wokeified, the most egregious one was the downplaying of the attractiveness of women in the game. There is a distinct scene where Shepard looks at Miranda's butt and enjoys it, and they removed this from the game.
You look like a porn addict again, Andy. Please stop. Even if this is a remake, shut up.
So moving on, let's go to new games that came out from 2000 to 2024 that have been woke from the beginning of their creation. We got Apex, Dustborn, Concord, Star Wars Outlaws, Flintlock, Siege of Dawn, and Forspoken. And I know there's many, many more, but these are just the ones that I'm familiar with. Isn't it interesting how the woke mob has seen the fundamental error they were making in changing old beloved games and characters and making them gay? So they had this amazing idea. Let's make new games that are woke from the start and they won't notice. Sadly, we did. All of these games on here are full of tedious political messages. All of these games are watered down, sanitized slop, without anything edgy or funny or controversial in them.
Apex is successful for the fact that it's fun gameplay for a live service game, and there's nothing really political about Apex. You probably just hate it because it's LGBT themes, and for Concord, the art design killed it, so you're technically right about ugly women, but all the characters are ugly in the game. Plus, it couldn't compete with Overwatch or like Team Fortress 2.
And Apex is about the only one on here that wasn't a complete flop sales-wise. All of these games flopped. Nobody wanted to play them, and I truly hope from the bottom of my heart that the people who are making these games quit the industry and go do something else, like work at Starbucks, just do something else. Alright, so if you look on the chart here, you can see the 15 or so games I've been tracking, and you can see a precipitous increase in leftist messages and communist messages and in woke messages increasing in all of these games over time. You are burying your head in the sand and denying obvious evidence if you continue to deny this garbage. Any leftist cuck who continues to deny the obvious wokeifying of games is clearly not an honest person worth listening to. Never advocate for porn.
Yeah. I'm a fag nigga, fuck me in a Tesla. Nigga rubbing on my thighs with some ketchup. Bitch, I'm